待ってるよ。今は雨降ってるです。こんにちは。じゃあ人を待ってるながらこの絵本読む。恐竜テーマだからそれで始めましょう。この後ジュラシックパーク読む。それで How does a dinosaur child celebrate? Does she hog all the cake on the big birthday plate? Does she finger the frosting, lick all the ice cream? Does she greet every guest with a flexible scream? Does she grab all the presents, snatch up every card? Does she make pin the tail on the dinosaur hard? これは絵です。No, a dinosaur doesn't. She greets every guest, then tells them their presents are simply the best. She gives everyone a large helping of cake. 次のページ。She shares party favors that she helped make. When the party is over, she thanks Mom and Dad for the very best birthday she's ever had. This was such a fun, and next year there'll be more. 誕生日おめでとう。誕生日おめでとうです。Happy birthday to you, little dinosaur. じゃあこれは楽しい本読む。だけど今はこんにちは。今はジュラシックパーク読む。今日はチャプター1と2読みます。これは英語バージョンです。あとバックグラウンドで雨降ってるそれでいいですかね。じゃあ始めましょう。じゃあブックマーク落ちた。これはチャプター1です。チャプター1。Mike Bowman whistled cheerfully as he drove the Land Rover through the Cabo Blanco Biological Reserve on the west coast of Costa Rica. It was a beautiful morning in July, and the road before him was spectacular, hugging the edge of a cliff, overlooking the jungle and the blue Pacific. According to the guidebooks, Cabo Blanco was unspoiled wilderness, almost a paradise. Seeing it now made Bowman feel as if the vacation was back on track. Bowman, a 36-year-old real estate developer from Dallas, had come to Costa Rica with his wife and daughter for for a 2-week holiday. For weeks, Ellen had filled his ear about the wonderful national parks of Costa Rica and how good it would be for Tina to see them. Then, when they arrived, it turned out Ellen had an appointment to see a plastic surgeon in San Jose. That was the first Mike Bowman had ever heard about the excellent and inexpensive plastic surgery available in Costa Rica and all the luxurious private clinics in San Jose. Of course, they'd had a huge fight. Mike felt she lied to him, and she had, and he put his foot down this plastic surgery business. Anyway, it was ridiculous. Ellen was only 30, and she was a beautiful woman. Hell, she'd be homecoming queen her senior year at Rice. And that was not even 10 years earlier. But Ellen tended to be insecure and worried, and it seemed as if in recent years she had mostly worried about losing her looks. That and everything else. The Land Rover bounced in a pothole, splashing mud. Seated beside him, Ellen said, "Mike, are you sure this is the right road? We haven't seen any other people for hours." "There was another car 15 minutes ago," he reminded her. "Remember, the blue one?" "Going the other way." "Darling, you wanted a deserted beach," he said, "and that's what you're going to get." Ellen shook her head doubtfully. "I hope you're right." "Yeah, Dad, I hope you're right," said Christina from the back seat. She was 8 years old. "Trust me, I'm right." He drove in silence a moment. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that view. It's beautiful." "It's okay," Tina said. Ellen got out a compact and looked at herself in the mirror. Pressing under her eyes, she sighed and put the compact away. The road began to descend, and Mike Bowman concentrated on driving. Suddenly, a small black shape flashed across the road, and Tina shrieked, "Look, look!" and it was gone into the jungle. "What was it?" Ellen asked. "A monkey?" "Maybe a squirrel monkey," Bowman said. "Can I count it?" Tina said, taking her pencil out. She was keeping a list of all the animals she had seen on her trip as a project for school. "I don't know," Mike said doubtfully. Tina consulted the pictures in the guidebook. "I don't think it was a squirrel monkey," she said. "I think it was another howler." They had seen several howler monkeys already on their trip. "Hey," she said more brightly, "according to this book, the beaches of Cabo Blanco are frequented by a variety of wildlife, including howler and white-faced monkeys, three-toed sloth, and cotimundus." "You think we'll see three-toed sloths, Dad?" "I bet we do." "Really? Just look in the mirror." "Very funny, Dad." The road sloped downward through the jungle toward the ocean. Mike Bowman felt like a hero when he had finally reached the beach, a 2-mile crescent of white sand, utterly deserted. He parked the Land Rover in the shade of the palm trees that fringed the beach and got out the lunchboxes. Ellen changed into her bathing suit, saying, "Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get this weight off." "You look great, hon." Actually, he felt that she was too thin, but he had learned not to mention that. Tina was already running down the beach. "Don't forget your sunscreen," Ellen called. "Later," Tina shouted over her shoulder. "I'm going to see if there's a sloth." Ellen Bowman looked around the beach and the trees. "You think she'll be all right?" "Honey, there's nobody here for miles," Mike said. "What about snakes?" "Oh, for God's sake," Mike Bowman said, "there's no snakes on a beach." "Well, there might be." "Honey," he said firmly, "snakes are cold-blooded. They're reptiles. They can't control their body temperature. It's 90 degrees on that sand. If a snake come out, it'd be cooked. Believe me, there's no snakes on the beach." He watched his daughter scampering down the beach, a dark spot on the white sand. "Let her go." Let her have a good time. He put his arm around his wife's waist. ごめんみんな、飛行機があります。ちょっと待って、ミュートします。ゆりな、こんにちは。じゃあ、飛行機終わりました。今って思う？今から終わりました。それでもっと読みましょう。He put his arm around his wife's waist. Tina ran until she was exhausted, and then she threw herself down on the sand and gleefully rolled to the water's edge. The ocean was warm, and there was hardly any surf at all. She sat for a while, catching her breath, and then she looked back toward her parents in the car to see how far she had come. Her mother waved, beckoning her to return. Tina waved back cheerfully, pretending she didn't understand. Tina didn't want to put on sunscreen, and she didn't want to go back and hear her mother talk about losing weight. She wanted to stay right here and maybe see a sloth. Tina had seen a sloth 2 days earlier at the zoo in San Jose. It looked like a Muppets character, and it seemed harmless. In any case, it couldn't move fast. She could easily outrun it. Now her mother was calling to her, and Tina decided to move out from the sun, back from the water, to the shade of the palm trees. In this part of the beach, the palm trees overhung a gnarled tangle of mangrove roots, which blocked any attempt to penetrate inland. Tina sat in the sand and kicked the dried mangrove leaves. She noticed many bird tracks in the sand. Costa Rica was famous for its birds. The guidebook said there was 3 times as many birds in Costa Rica in all of America and Canada. In the sand, some of the 3-toed bird tracks were small and so faint they could hardly be seen. Other tracks were large and cut deeper into the sand. Tina was looking idly at the tracks when she heard a chirping, followed by a rustling in the mangrove thicket. Did sloths make a chirping sound? Tina didn't think so, but she wasn't sure. The chirping was probably some ocean bird. She waited quietly, not moving, hearing the rustling again, and finally she saw the source of the sounds. A few yards away, a lizard emerged from the mangrove roots and peered at her. Tina held her breath. A new animal for her list. The lizard stood up on its hind legs, balancing on its thick tail, and stared at her. Standing like that, it was almost a foot tall, dark green with brown stripes along its back. Its tiny front legs ended in lizard-like fingers that wiggled in the air. The lizard wasn't frightened. It came toward her, walking upright on its hind legs. It was hardly bigger than a chicken. And like a chicken, it bobbed its head and it walked. Tina thought it would make a wonderful pet. She noticed that the lizards left 3-toed tracks that looked exactly like bird tracks. The lizard came closer to Tina. She kept her body still, not wanting to frighten the little animal. She was amazed that it could come so close, but she remembered that this was a national park. All the animals in the park would know that they're protected. Though this lizard was probably tame, maybe it even expected her to give it some food. Unfortunately, she didn't have any. Slowly, Tina extended her hand, palm open, to show she didn't have any food. The lizard paused, cocked its head, and chirped. Sorry, Tina said. I don't have anything. And then, without warning, the lizard jumped up onto her outstretched hand. Tina could feel its little toes pinching the skin of her palm. And she felt the surprising weight of the animal's body pressing her arm down. And then the lizard scrambled up her arm toward her face. I just wish I could see her, Ellen Bowman said, squinting in the sunlight. That's all, just see her. I'm sure she's fine, Mike said, picking through the boxed lunch packed by the hotel. There was unappetizing grilled chicken and some kind of meat fillet pastry. Not that Ellen would eat any of it. You don't think she'd leave the beach, Ellen said. No, hun, I don't. I feel so isolated here, Ellen said. I thought that's what you wanted, Mike Bowman said. I did. Well then, what's the problem? I just wish I could see her is all, Ellen said. Then from down the beach, carried by the wind, they heard their daughter's voice. She was screaming. それはチャプター1だった。今はチャプター2。Gutierrez. その単語わかんない。I think she is quite comfortable now, Dr. Cruz said, lowering the plastic flap of the oxygen tent around Tina as she slept. Mike Bowman sat beside the bed, close to his daughter. Mike thought Dr. Cruz was probably pretty capable. He spoke excellent English, the result of training at medical centers in London and Baltimore. Dr. Cruz radiated competence, and the Clinica Santa Maria, the modern hospital in Gutierrez, was spotless and efficient. But even so, Mike Bowman felt nervous. There was no getting around the fact that his only daughter was desperately ill, and they were far from home. When Mike had reached Tina, she was screaming hysterically. Her whole left arm was bloody, covered in perfusion and small bites. Small bites, small bites. Each size of the thumbprint, and there were flecks of sticky foam on her arm, like foamy saliva. He carried her back down the beach. Almost immediately, her arm began to redden and swell. Mike would not soon forget the frantic drive back to civilization. The four-wheel drive Land Rover, slipping and sliding up the muddy track into the hills while his daughter screamed in fear and pain, and her arm grew more and more bloated and red. Long before they reached the park boundaries, the swelling had spread to her neck, and then Tina began to have trouble breathing. She'll be all right now, Ellen said, staring at through the plastic oxygen tent. I believe so, Dr. Cruz said. I've given her another dose of steroids, and her breathing is much easier, and you can see the edema in her arms is greatly reduced. Mike Bowman said, about those bites. We have no identification yet, the doctor said. I myself haven't seen bites like that before, but you'll notice they are disappearing. It's already quite difficult to make them out. Fortunately, I've taken photographs for reference, and I have washed her arm to collect some samples of the sticky saliva, one for analysis here, a second to send to the labs in San Jose, and a third we'll keep frozen in case it's needed. Do you have the picture she made? Yes, Mike Bowman said. He handed the doctor a sketch that Tina had drawn in response to the questions from admitting officials. This is the animal that bit her, Dr. Cruz said, looking at the picture. Yes, Mike Bowman said. She said it was a green lizard, the size of a chicken or a cow. I don't know of such a lizard, the doctor said. She had drawn it standing on its hind legs. That's right, Mike Bowman said. She said it walked on hind legs. Dr. Cruz frowned. He stared at the picture a while longer. I'm not an expert. I've asked for Dr. Gutierrez to visit us here. He is a senior researcher at the Reserva Biological de Caracara, which is across the bay. Perhaps he can identify the animal for us. Isn't there someone else from Cabo Blanco? Bowman asked. That's where she was bitten. Unfortunately not, Dr. Cruz said. Cabo Blanco has no permanent staff, and no researcher has worked there for some time. You were probably the first people to walk on that beach in several months, but I'm sure you will find Dr. Gutierrez to be knowledgeable. Dr. Gutierrez turned out to be a bearded man wearing khaki shorts and a shirt. The surprise was that he was American. He introduced the Bowmans, saying in a soft southern accent, "Mr. or Mrs. Bowman, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And then explaining that he was a field biologist from Yale who had worked in Costa Rica for the last 5 years. Marty Gutierrez examined Tina thoroughly, lifting her arm gently, peering closely at each of the bites with a penlight, then measuring them with a small pocket ruler. After a while, Gutierrez stepped away, nodding to himself as if he had understood something. He then inspected the Polaroids and asked several questions about the saliva, which Cruz told him was still being tested in the lab. Finally, he turned to Mike Bowman and his wife, waiting tensely. "I think Tina's going to be fine. I just want to be clear about a few details," he said, making notes. Making notes in a precise hand. "Your daughter says she was bitten by a green lizard, approximately 1 foot high, which walked upright onto the beach from the mangrove swamp." "That's right, yes. And the lizard made some kind of vocalization." Tina said it chirped or squeaked, like a mouse, you would say? "Yes. Well then, Dr. Gutierrez, I know this lizard," he explained. "Of the 6,000 species of lizard in the world, no more than a dozen species walked upright. Of course, those species were only 4 were found in Latin America, and judging by the colorization, the lizard could be only one of the 4. I'm sure this lizard is a Basculus amoratus, a striped Basculus lizard found here in Costa Rica and also in Honduras. Standing on their hind legs, they are sometimes as tall as a foot." "Are they poisonous?" "No, Mr. Bowman, not at all," Gutierrez explained. "That the swelling in Tina's arm was an allergic reaction. According to the literature, 14% of people are strongly allergic to reptiles." "Sako-chan, konnichiwa. Konnichiwa, Mamina." "And what about the foamy saliva on her arm?" Ellen said. "I keep thinking about rabies." No, Dr. Gutierrez said. "A reptile can't carry rabies. Miss Bowman, your daughter has suffered an allergic reaction to the bite of a Basculus lizard. Nothing more serious." Mike Bowman then showed Gutierrez the picture Tina had drawn. Gutierrez nodded. "I would accept this as a picture of a Basculus lizard," he said. "A few details are wrong, of course. The neck is much too long, and she had drawn the hind legs with only 3 toes instead of 5. The tail is too thick and raised too high. But otherwise, this is perfectly serviceable lizard of the kind we're talking about." "But Tina specifically said the neck was long," Ellen Bowman insisted, "and she said there were 3 toes on the foot." "Tina's pretty observant," Mike Bowman said. "I'm sure she is," Gutierrez said, smiling, "but I still think your daughter was bitten by a common Basculus amoratus and had a severe herpetological reaction. Normal time course with medication is 12 hours. She should be just fine in the morning." In the modern laboratory in the basement of the Clinica Santa Maria, word was received that Dr. Gutierrez had identified the animal that had bitten the American child as a harmless Basculus lizard. Immediately, the analysis of the saliva was halted, even though a preliminary fractionation showed several extremely high molecular weight proteins of unknown biological activity. But the night technician was busy, and he placed the saliva samples on the holding shelf of the refrigerator. The next morning, the day clerk checked the holding shelf, the name of the discharged patient, seeing that Bowman Christina L. was scheduled for discharge that morning. The clerk threw out the saliva samples at the last moment. He noticed that one sample had a red tag, meant that it was supposed to be forwarded to the university lab in San Jose. He retrieved the test tube from the wastebasket and sent it on his way. Go on, say thank you to Dr. Cruz, Ellen Bowman said, and pushed Tina forward. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, Tina said. I feel much better now. She reached up and shook the doctor's hand. Then she said, You have a different shirt. For a moment, Dr. Cruz looked perplexed. Then he smiled. That's right, Tina. When I work all night in the hospital, in the morning I change your shirt. But not your tie? No, just my shirt. Ellen Bowman said, Mike told you she's observant. She certainly is, Dr. Cruz smiled, and shook the little girl's hand gravely. Enjoy the rest of your holiday in Costa Rica, Tina. I will. The Bowman family had started to leave when Dr. Cruz said, Oh, Tina, do you remember the lizard that bit you? Uh-huh. You remember its feet? Uh-huh. Did it have any toes? Yes. How many toes did it have? 3, she said. How do you know that? Because I looked, she said. Anyway, all the birds on the beach made marks in the sand with 3 toes like this. She held up her hand, middle 3 fingers spread wide. And the lizard made those kind of marks in the sand too? The lizard made marks like a bird? Uh-huh, Tina said. He walked like a bird too. He jerked his head up like this, up and down, and she took a few steps, bobbing her head. After the Bowmans had departed, Dr. Cruz decided to report this conversation to Gutierrez at the biological station. I must admit the girl's story is puzzling, Gutierrez said. I have been doing some checking myself. I am no longer certain she was bitten by a basilisk. Not certain at all. Then what could it be? Well, Gutierrez said, let's not speculate prematurely. By the way, have you heard of any other lizard bites at the hospital? No? Why? Let me know, my friend, if you do. じゃあ、それはチャプター2だった。じゃあ、ブックマークをします。他のライブでもっとチャプター読みます。みんなどうだった？この本で英語は本当に難しい。英語ネイティブだけどいくつかの単語は言うこと大変。ページは何ですか？次のライブでこれ読む。この本でページナンバー447のページがあります。今は21のページです。それでたくさんある。じゃあみんなこの ブ見てくれてありがとね。ありがとね、ありがとね、ありがとね、ありがとね。楽しんでくれて嬉しい嬉しい嬉しい嬉しい。それでみんな本当に楽しかった。じゃあね、バイバーイ。応援ありがとうね。バイバーイ。